Okay, this video is a bit of a conspiracy style video. We're not going to be talking about the politically correct stuff in this one. So if you get triggered by talk of doping, talk of motor doping, all kinds of crazy things, then don't watch this video because we're going to go deep into the modern cycling performance iceberg, starting right at the top with the things that we're always told in cycling is the reason why the races keep getting faster and faster and the riders keep beating the old records. So we start with aero bikes. So of course the technology has improved a lot, that's undeniable, and that is one of the main things that people talk about to explain how the racing has become so much quicker. Heat adaptation, that's a significant one we've heard a lot of recently, being able to train riders to cope better with the heat. Altitude camps, there's nothing new with that. Zone 2, focus more on lower intensity rather than just always high intensity in their preparation for racing. Bicarb, so riders have it in their drinks to help buffer the acid produced by their muscles so that they can continue for longer. Better equipment, well, that just covers everything. Better coaching for juniors, so from a very young age, riders have access to all the data in terms of coaching and improved knowledge. Better nutrition as well, more data is available than ever. Sleep and recovery tracking, power meters, faster tires, skin suits, even the use of AI in training, where it's used to calculate where a rider is going to be maybe in a week, 2 weeks, and what kind of training they should do, and analyze all the data quickly, consume it, and then create like a perfect plan for the rider. Wax chains and glucose monitoring, all these techniques. There's a lot of advanced science, and there's more than this as well, that is being used nowadays, and that is largely what we're told by GCN, by the sport, is the reason as to why cycling is so quick these days. I think it's quite a reasonable assessment. You know, these are incredible improvements. I mean, 10, 20 years ago, a lot of this stuff just wasn't being used. So let's go down underneath the water now and let's see some more possible reasons that cycling has gotten significantly faster. These are sort of the old school, the things we saw during the Armstrong era and before that as well. EPO, increasing the production of red blood cells to carry more oxygen to the muscles. Testosterone for recovery. Anabolic steroids for recovery. Human growth hormone also for recovery. And amphetamines for stimulation, corticosteroids as well to decrease inflammation and pain. Masking agents to help mask the evidence of the use of these drugs in blood testing, and blood transfusions used to increase red blood cell count, especially like in the middle of the Tour de France or in the final week. Okay, let's go even deeper now. So we're really getting into the deeper waters where this iceberg starts to get kind of crazy. We're starting to talk about things that people will laugh at you if you come out with these kind of things in like a comment thread or on Reddit. Things like HIF activators, they stimulate altitude without being at altitude. SARMs, so steroid-like drugs that do similar things to steroids. EPO mimetic drugs, so drugs that are similar to EPO and can be even better than EPO. So some examples for steroid-like drugs: ostarine, follistatin to modify red blood cell formation, peptide hormones stimulate recovery, darbepoetin is one of the EPO alternatives, so is this one, peginosatide, as well as hidden motors, which I've put it here because I think hidden motors is a lot more crazy than some of the things that we've already talked about with EPO, standard EPO, testosterone, etc. Because I just think it must be incredibly difficult to actually hide a motor when the bikes are tested. I know some people say that bikes are swapped out during races and there's a lot of bike changes, and I don't know, the doped up bike might be given to the rider later in the race, whereas they start on a clean bike, things like that. But I still think, you know, if the organisers are serious about preventing motor doping, it shouldn't be too difficult for them to do that. But that's on this level. Let's go even deeper now. We're going to go on to the kind of really crazy stuff here. It does go one level deeper, but let's talk about micromotors, so forms of motors that are much smaller, hidden in lots of different places, that don't immediately appear as obvious as a proper motor that's hidden like in the crank on the bike, maybe something that's hidden in the hubs on the wheels, but much smaller, not as powerful, but still enough to create that difference that can win a race. Then you've got gene editing, so actually modifying your genetics to increase performance. An example might be EPO gene transfer, where you actually modify your body's own genetic ability to produce red blood cells in larger quantities. So you're not actually consuming a drug like EPO, you're actually modifying your own body and telling it to create more EPO, the natural EPO that creates blood cells, somehow modifying your genes to tell it to do that. Myostatin, it's the natural limit on muscular growth, removing that to create, just like super legs that can produce crazy power beyond your genetic ability. Then designer drugs, so this is quite an interesting one, sort of drugs that we've already discussed that are tested for by anti-doping, but changing their signatures so they still have a similar or same effect, but are not detectable with standard testing, which is why testing is always improving and developing over time. Magnetic motors, and then scripted races where races are actually decided in advance. The winner is decided already and riders basically just follow a script. They drop off the wheel if they're told to, or they attack when they're told to, and everyone else just lets them win but tries to pretend that they are actually trying. That's the most disappointing one if that is true in any form, which I don't think it is. Apart from that, the Tour de France criteriums in Asia, they're obviously scripted, but not the Tour de France itself. But that's one theory that I've actually seen quite a few people suggest, that races are scripted. This is the final level of the cycling performance iceberg, and it gets really crazy here. I've tried to find some of the most crazy theories that are out there on the internet. Well, this is what people are actually suggesting. Brains themselves are being doped so that more performance can be produced, less pain, I don't know, just enhancing the brain's ability to tell the muscles to produce power. I don't even know if that's possible. I don't think it even works like that. Nanotechnology in blood, so this is straight from the Avengers. This is like Iron Man, Hollywood. Nanotechnology in the blood, some kind of tiny device, and many devices that can go into your body to enhance performance somehow. Genetically modified from birth, so the idea that athletes are pre-selected from before they're even born or when they are born, somehow modifying their genetics to be like super athletes as they grow up. Cell engineering, so again, similar to stem cell doping, so actually creating cells on demand in the body somehow, maybe like red blood cells can be actually produced artificially without needing to actually stimulate the body to do it itself. You can just create these cells somehow using some of the body's own abilities. I don't know, some kind of crazy scientific method to create whatever kind of cell you want, like a red blood cell, on demand. Similar to lab-grown blood, this is sort of a similar idea where blood itself and the components of blood can be sort of manufactured in a lab and then just, poured into the athlete's body, and it's undetectable because no drugs necessarily have been used to create that. PEDs in bottles, so this one's kind of crazy. Performance enhancing drugs somehow poured into riders' bottles and it's given to them on the road. Some kind of fast acting drug that they can just consume, can go straight in and then do its job, enhance performance, and then leave the body quickly without being detected. I don't know what that would be, what kind of substance that would involve, but it's quite interesting actually. We're going to go all the way back to the top towards some more of the sane opinions here, some of the less crazy stuff, the reasonable part, you could say. And I did put lactate down. So lactate is this new thing that I've recently heard of where riders are actually consuming lactate in their fueling strategies. So in gels, they can actually add lactate because lactate isn't necessarily a bad thing, even though the body produces it, the muscles produce it when they're tired, but it's a natural part of the energy creation cycle. And it's actually a form of energy that the body can actually use. The heart can even use it for energy too. So the idea is you can actually consume lactate as well as your body creating it. Maybe it gives you a bit more in terms of energy that the muscles can use for longer. But anyway, that'll do it for this video. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you haven't. Let me know your thoughts below on any other things you might have added to the iceberg too. But I'll catch you in the next video.